Ruben Amorim discusses the potential transfer of Viktor Gyokeres in the summer transfer window. My reaction to Ruben Amorim's 4-1 victory against Sporting Lisbon, plus all of your latest news and transfer news. These are some of the topics we will be discussing on this morning's show, but before we get into that, please do me one small favour. Smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 500 likes. And if this is your first time watching, don't forget to subscribe. I'm live every single day. Right, let's start off by talking about Viktor Gyokeres. And I want you to get in the comments section and let me know your thoughts. The question I have for you today is, should Manchester United sign Viktor Gyokeres from Sporting Lisbon in the summer? Now, Ruben Amorim was asked about whether Manchester United will try and sign Viktor Gyokeres, and he was very respectful about it. He said, he's not going to even joke about that at the moment. He says he won't try and sign him in the January window, but he says that he does expect Viktor Gyokeres to leave Sporting Lisbon in the summer. Apparently, he has a release clause which becomes available in the summer of 2025, which will be around 60 to 70 million euros. So he's definitely going to leave Sporting Lisbon. He was going to leave Sporting Lisbon regardless of whether Ruben Amorim stayed as the manager. That was kind of already a well-known bit of information, because obviously he nearly left in the summer. Ruben Amorim looked like he might have gone to Liverpool, and in the end, Ruben Amorim decided to stay at Sporting Lisbon, and Viktor Gyokeres said, you know what, I'll stay at Sporting Lisbon with you. I like what's going on here, but obviously now that's completely fallen apart because we know that Ruben Amorim's coming to Manchester United. So Viktor Gyokeres finds himself in a difficult situation where the only reason he stayed at the club in the summer was because he enjoyed working with the manager, who's now leaving. Do I want Viktor Gyokeres at Manchester United? I mean, he's clearly a very talented player, scoring a hat-trick in the Champions League against Man City. Like, that's not an easy thing to do, is it? You can say one of them was a penalty, whatever you want. You can make up an excuse to try and put down his achievements. But the fact of the matter is, he is a very, very talented player. But there was one thing I wanted to bring into the show this morning. And obviously, as I said, I want you to let me know in the comments section, should Manchester United sign Viktor Gyokeres? Now, I want to start off by saying that I personally think we do need another striker. I said this in the summer. I said that, if someone like Ivan Toney's available, we should go and get him. Because I looked at our forward line in the summer and I just didn't think it's strong enough. And I mean, I've kind of been proven right now, haven't I? I think we've scored 8 goals in the Premier League. We're bottom for chances chance conversion, but top for chances created. Like, we can't finish our chances. And Højlund, he looks like a decent player, but for me, he's injured too much. He's having to be rested too much, if that makes sense. They're having to manage his minutes. He'll play 60, 70 minutes and they'll have to take him off, which is a bit alarming for me. I mean, he's still very young, I get that. But if you're having to manage someone's minutes at the age of 21, when they should really be in their kind of most youthful years, it is a little bit concerning. And when you look at his stats for this season, he scored 1 goal so far this season in 15 games? Like, that's not really prolific striker, is it? So I'm not, but just to say, I'm not bashing Rasmus Højlund. I like him. I think he's got the right attitude. I think he's, quite clinical at times, but is he good enough to take us to winning leagues and even to the top 4? I'm not sure, to be honest. And for me personally, you need someone like a Højlund and someone like a Gyokeres. You need someone who's a little bit more experienced, someone who's been around a little bit longer, i.e. Viktor Gyokeres. I think he is 26, I believe. Let me just double check my facts here. 26. So he's 26 and Højlund's 21. I mean, that would be the perfect combination there, wouldn't it? To have somebody who's, been playing football for a long time and has played for lots of different clubs at lots of different levels in Viktor Gyokeres, obviously a Swedish international as well, plus a younger option in Rasmus Højlund. Because let's be very clear here, right? We know in Viktor Amorim's, I nearly called him Viktor Amorim, Ruben Amorim's formation, he only really has 1 striker and then has 2 central attacking midfielders. So I see Joshua Zirkzee as one of those players who will play in the kind of number 10 role alongside Bruno. I don't see him as the out-and-out striker. So at the moment, we only have 1 out-and-out striker, and that's Viktor Gyokeres. Because for me, Joshua Zirkzee isn't an out-and-out striker. Watching Joshua Zirkzee play, he's not that clinical in front of goal. His first thought is always to give the ball to other people. He never thinks about turning and shooting. It's always who can I bring into the game? And for me, that's more somebody who would play in the number 10 role, not a number 9. So I think another number 9, like a Viktor Gyokeres, is absolutely essential for Manchester United if we want to go to the next level. You know, if we want to stay around 6th to 8th, I think we can probably make do with what we've got. But, you know, if we want to go to that very next level, potentially challenge for the title in a number of years, like you need a clinical striker. You need somebody like Viktor Gyokeres, who, you know, people will say, oh, it's only the Portuguese league. I mean, he just scored a hat-trick against Man City in the Champions League. When was the last time a Manchester United player scored a hat-trick against Man City? Someone let me know in the chat. Let's have a look. Last Manchester United player to score a hat-trick against Man City. I don't even remember the last time a Man United player scored a hat-trick ever. So the last time... So the last time Manchester United, any player at Manchester United scored a hat-trick was in 2022, and that was Ronaldo. The last time we scored a hat-trick against Man City, I can't even see it come up on the list. I honestly don't know. If anybody knows, let me know. The last time that Man United scored a hat-trick against Man City, i.e. one player scoring 3 goals. I can't remember the last time. But the point I'm trying to make here is, you know, there's always going to be people who say, oh, Viktor Gyokeres is playing in a lesser league. He's got 5 goals in the Champions League in 4 matches, and he's got 16 goals in the Portuguese league in 10 matches. 23 goals and 4 assists in 17 games across all competitions. I mean, it's an absolutely unbelievable record. But there was one thing I wanted to bring into the show, which might actually shock some of you, okay? And it's about Dan Ashworth and Viktor Gyokeres. Now, some of you might not know this, but obviously... you know, the point of this show is that I go off and do research and I bring it into the community so we can discuss it. But I saw a really interesting story, I think it was this morning, from Mark Ogden from ESPN, and he was talking about Dan Ashworth and Gyokeres. Now, I didn't know this, but I found out this morning. So the story says this. It says Viktor Gyokeres was 23 when Brighton let him leave to Coventry for just £1 million. He says now Viktor Gyokeres is the hottest striker in Europe at 26 years of age. He goes on to say that Dan Ashworth was the Brighton sporting director at the time who let him go. And he says it will be an interesting conversation if Ruben Amorim wants to bring him back in. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't know that. I don't know if anybody in the chat watching this video knew that, but effectively, Dan Ashworth was responsible for... you know, the sales, the transfers at Brighton, and he decided, as well as his team, it's not going to be his only decision, but he was effectively the one with the final say. He decided that Viktor Gyokeres wasn't good enough and sold him from Brighton to Coventry for £1 million. And now he's gone on to become, you know, arguably one of the most in-demand strikers in world football at the moment. Obviously, bar people like Mbappe and Haaland because they're not achievable, but on the market, he's probably the most in-demand striker. Now, is that on Dan Ashworth? Possibly. But I mean, you know, there's so many teams who've had similar situations. You know, obviously Chelsea letting De Bruyne and Salah go, etc., etc. There's so many examples of where, you know, sporting directors at certain clubs let players go and they went on to great things. So I'm not going to criticise Dan Ashworth too much for that, although it does look pretty bad on his behalf. You know, that this was only 3 years ago, remember. 3 years ago, Dan Ashworth sold Viktor Gyokeres for only £1 million to Coventry. He then goes on to become probably a 70, £80 million striker, scoring a hat-trick against Man City 3 years later. Now, the thing that really stood out for me here was, how is that conversation going to go down between Dan Ashworth and... Ruben Amorim? If he says, I want Viktor Gyokeres, and remember that Ruben Amorim doesn't have the transfer veto anymore. That's the thing we have to remember. Erik ten Hag had this veto which effectively said he could sign whoever he wanted. So if he wanted to sign the whole Ajax team, that was the direction that Manchester United would go in. Whereas apparently the contract that Ruben Amorim signed with Manchester United is as the head coach. He will be involved to some extent. With transfers, but he's not going to have a veto. You know, he's not going to have like a final say like Erik ten Hag had. So it'd be interesting to see how this one plays out, but I think we definitely need a striker. Obviously, Ruben Amorim knows Gyokeres. They worked together before. Gyokeres has been absolutely quality for Ruben Amorim. So I would definitely... Yeah, I would definitely like to see him at Manchester United. So yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. We'll see if that one progresses. But let's react a little bit as well to Sporting Lisbon's victory last night against Man City. Absolutely unbelievable. First half, they were completely dominated by Man City, we can all agree on. But in that second half, they absolutely blew them away. And it was really, really exciting. Now, can we expect Manchester United to be playing like that immediately? No. He's been there for 4.5 years, remember, Ruben Amorim. So it's not going to happen overnight. And it all depends whether the players buy into it, whether the players throw him under the bus again, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm excited. I think all of the evidence is there to show us that Ruben Amorim is clearly a very talented manager. You don't beat Man City 4-1 and then come away from it and say, oh, you're not a good manager. Do you know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't happen. I'm excited to see what Ruben Amorim can bring. But as I said, this is very much now on the players. It's on the players buying into his philosophy, into his tactics. And it's also about the players being able to play his tactics. I think one of our biggest problems for Erik ten Hag was that he had a squad largely of players that I don't think were capable of playing kind of the style of football that he wanted to implement. And the more stories are now starting coming out saying that, Joshua Zirkzee wasn't the player that Erik ten Hag wanted, and that he apparently arrived at Carrington a stone overweight, and that was why he didn't get picked at the beginning of the season, because he wasn't fit enough. Like, all of these things start coming out that effectively a lot of the transfers, Manuel Ugarte, apparently that wasn't Erik ten Hag signing either. Now, I'm not making up an excuse for Erik ten Hag at all, Erik ten Hag was sacked because he was awful this season anyway, absolutely terrible. So he rightfully deserved to be sacked, and bringing in Ruben Amorim seems like the logical decision. But if Ruben Amorim is effectively just going to be given players, Ineos need to make sure that these players are right. They need to make sure they have the right attitude, the right mentality, and most importantly, that they can play in Ruben Amorim's system. Because if they can't, it's completely pointless, And I think obviously it worked so well for him at Sporting Lisbon because there was that connection between Ruben Amorim and the sporting director, who is, interestingly enough, now actually moving to Man City. Sporting Lisbon's director of football is going to Man City. So the writing is on the wall, right? Manchester United can replicate what Sporting Lisbon have done. Sporting Lisbon were a sleeping giant. They hadn't won the league in 19 years. They were in absolute turmoil. Ruben Amorim comes in, wins the league twice, wins, he turned them around. Sporting Lisbon were in a worse place than where Man United are now. Ruben Amorim came in a league that was dominated by Benfica and Porto and did manage to turn it around. So it is there. If Ineos get things right, that's more what I'm focusing on here. If these players can't play that system, then they need to be sold, And I would hope that Ruben Amorim would have a say in that, because if Dan Ashworth's just deciding who should stay and who should go, then how is that going to onto the pitch? How is that going to work? But it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I'm very excited for the first game under him. And yeah, so really, really happy about that. But I want you obviously to let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know. Would you like to see Viktor Gyokeres? Obviously, as I said, he won't be signing in January. It will be at the end of the summer, hence why the video says Viktor Gyokeres' first summer signing. So let me know your thoughts on that. I'm going to wrap the video up here. One little bit of positivity before we go. Apparently, Kobbie Mainoo is no longer injured. So that's good. That's great news. Really, really happy about that. But you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Please make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new. This has been Daily Red Devil. Have a lovely day, everybody, and I'll speak to you all on the next one. Bye for now.